Hello, everyone. My name is Joe DiMarini. I'm joined today by Mr. Flyperbole himself, Steve Jaco, as well as producer Kyle. Welcome to Broad Street Hockey. Today, we're going to continue our discussion of BSH's 25 under 25 ranking. But before we get into all that, smash that subscribe button, give us a like, ring that notification bell, and as always, please head over to broadstreethockey.com for more in-depth coverage, opinions, and all things Flyers and cheesesteaks. We had a cheesesteak
Wow.
ranking go up this week. Steve, how you doing? You ready to talk some prospects?
South Jersey cheesesteaks at that, I believe. JPO's
Oh,
moved it across the river. But yeah, Jason Polinsky, fantastic with his cheesesteak rankings. Man knows what he's talking about because I usually agree with him. But I'm doing great. I'm excited to talk about some prospects that I know nothing about. I will say, like, because I've been hockey podcasting for a long time, it's like 10 years now, and easily the weakest part of my game is prospects. I do feel like this past draft was one of the more comprehensive reviews I've done in preparation because it was such a big draft for the Flyers. And there's some really good resources out there. I've been reading a lot of like Corey Proman and Scott Wheeler stuff, Elite Prospects, and of course our own BroadStreetHockey.com has had some awesome coverage of all these different guys. So I don't know anything. I didn't submit a top 25 under 25, and that's because I got burnt one year when I ranked Robert Haig pretty high, body bag Haig,
oh,
because he was an NHL level player. So I'm like, by default, he's better than a lot of these guys. And I got roasted for it. So I was like, never again. I'm good. But I love reading it. It's one of my favorite pieces of content on BSH every year.
that's not fair. I mean, there is merit to ranking an NHL player over some guy they just drafted because there's that experience, that professional experience. So I understand. I understand that. Today we are going to talk about prospects 20 to 16. You can find all of their profiles up on broadstreethockey.com right now. And the first one is Jack Berglund. He's 19 years old. He was drafted in 2024 in the second round. If you'll remember, the Flyers traded, I believe, 2 third-round picks to move up and get him. And everybody rolled their eyes because it's like, oh, here's the Flyers drafting the big center who can't skate. But Jack Berglund's claim to fame is that he came over for, I think it was rookie camp, and they just, or development camp maybe, and they discovered that his skate sizes were like 2 sizes wrong. Like one boot was 2 sizes too big and another one was like small or something. So they
What?
got him yeah, it's a crazy story, and they got him fitted with the right boots, and since last year he's improved a fair bit.
Wow. So all it takes is just finding the right shoes. A Cinderella story, if you will.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, that's what I'm here for, is to make comments like that. But Berglund's a big boy, and we're going to be using that
Huge.
phrase a few times today. But
Yeah.
Berglund's one of those guys that he's low right now, but you're starting to see signs that there might be something there.
Yeah.
In the recent, what was it, the
Summer
tournament for
showcase.
juniors, the summer showcase,
Summer
the
showcase.
summer showcase.
Summer.
In the summer showcase, he showed us some goal scoring ability that we hadn't seen previously, and we're hoping that he continues to blossom and show us stuff like that, because if this is a guy that the Flyers found a little hidden gem with and he ends up becoming like a 2-3C in the future, that's awesome for this team, because he's a big guy and you can't just find that size everywhere. And he's clearly got skills, but it's, can he get that skating now that he has the right boots on? Can he get
Yeah.
that skating there? And can he marry the, what he could have skill wise with better skating and just have a whole package and make a comprehensive NHL player? I sure hope so.
I know. Can you imagine like trying to walk with clown shoes that are that big and then also trying to ice skate? Your crossovers are going to be just impossible.
I'll say it sounds bad, friend. It sounds real bad.
Sounds bad. Sounds real bad. Just a little fun fact on Berglund. He had the second highest faceoff percentage in the entire SHL with a 61.3%. That's only through 17 games, but as an 18-year-old and given the Flyers' struggles in the faceoff dot, that's a promising little statistic there.
That's awesome. That's something they desperately need. I mean, it feels like Sean Couturier is the only guy they have that can win a face-off on the team right now.
Mhm.
And Sean Couturier is 32 years old. He's a guy that we're not expecting when the Flyers are like, he might be on the next Flyers playoff team, but he's not going to be on the next like great Flyers team probably,
Yeah,
unless he's like the 4C maybe, because that contract's pretty long. But
true.
Sean Couturier is the only, you need other guys who can win some dang faceoffs. So if Berglund can work out again, I'll be happy if he ends up as a 3C even, because you need guys you need guys down the board, right? And if
Oh
he can
yeah,
win some faceoffs, if he can step in there in some critical positions, that would be awesome.
for sure. Like I went over this in the last episode, but one of my criteria for ranking is like importance to the rebuild, and that doesn't just mean like how they fit on the roster, but every NHL team is always looking for centers, for big centers with some face-off skill who can put up a couple points, who are reliable. So if a big trade package comes along for some higher end player, and they're like include Jack Berglund as part of that, having players with value who are viewed as valuable around the league, always a good thing to have in the system.
Oh, for sure. I mean, one of the things I always say is draft the best player you can, because you can
Mhm.
always make trades. You can always work out stuff out there. If you look over at the Florida Panthers, our current almost dynasty in the NHL, right? One of their
Mhm.
biggest pieces was Matthew Tkachuk that they got through a trade. They traded a high-end prospect for another high-end guy. So they traded talent for talent, and it worked out for them because they ended up getting the guy that was kind of the missing piece of the puzzle there. So get as many high end guys as you can, develop them as well as you can, and if you have to trade them for other high end pieces, do it. But
Yeah.
this is an important piece, and if he hits, this is great for us because I think they need one of Nesbitt or him to work out, because if Berglund and Nesbitt are both busts, they're real screwed. But if even
Yeah.
just one of those guys works out, okay, and they have Luchenko and Berglund Nesbitt, that's a really good makings right there. And if then
We
you
might
can
have
somehow
something.
poach a guy, you might have something. And if you can poach a guy in free agency or through the trade market, fantastic. I think the ranking at 20 for Berglund is pretty fair. I might have him like slightly up, but like I think 20 sounds like a good spot for him.
Yeah, I had him at 21st, so basically right on par with everybody else. Maddie and Gilbs had him at 16th.
Hey, jumping in here really quick. Maddie had this to say about Jack Berglund. She said, I think there's a lot of value in a player like Berglund as a true center with some size. As he continues to improve his skating, I'm coming around on him and buying into the organization's vision of him as a guy who could for real help them at the NHL level at some point in the future.
And then moving on from number 20, let's talk about number 19, one of my boys going into the draft, Jack Murtagh.
Oh, Jack Murtagh, who
Great
I
name.
think the common joke is always that we're lamenting that his name isn't Murtaugh, like in Lethal Weapon, the
Mhm.
guy who says, I'm getting too old for this shit. It's sad that it's Murtagh, but what are you going to do? I've heard some really good things about Murtagh. I'm not like as familiar, I think, with him as some of the other guys on this list, but everything I've heard has been positive. I know when we were doing draft coverage, Charlie over at PHLY was really excited about Murtagh. So he's a guy on the radar, and I know a lot of people are excited for him to step in and maybe get some NHL action down the line.
Yep, he was drafted 40th overall this summer. I would have been happy with him at 31. Like he was one of my guys for one of the late first, early second round picks. And to see the Flyers get him at 40, I was like, awesome. I really like this guy. I wrote his profile over on broadstreethockey.com. He is a fast skater. He can rip a shot. He's big. The biggest knock on him is his hockey sense, but I think that's a little bit overblown. We'll see. The reason I think it's overblown, he just turned 18 last week. He is one of the younger players from the draft. And we've seen before that the Flyers target those guys because they think their development runway is longer. Jet Luchenko is a great example.
I'm looking at his elite prospects page right now, and my
Mhm.
favorite phrase on this page is explosive. And I think they need more guys like that, guys who can win puck battles, guys with speed, like you said. So I'm okay. They have a lot of guys with great hockey sense. I don't know if they have many guys that I would describe as explosive. So,
Mhm.
like, that's a huge net positive for me right there. And that makes for an exciting player for me. One of the problems last year with the Flyers was they would not win a lot of those board battles. So, to get guys who can get in there, be explosive, win those board battles, that's huge for the future of this franchise.
Fully agree. And next year he will be playing for Boston University, along with another second round draft pick who was covered in the last video, Carter Amico, and another Flyers prospect, Owen McLaughlin.
Carter Amico is
Yeah,
definitely an exciting one for the
big
franchise
boy.
moving forward, because one of the things I've been talking about recently is the defensive depth with the team. So, you know, that's going to be a really big factor moving forward, getting guys properly on the defensive end. But, going back to Murtagh, that explosiveness makes it for, a real exciting player. I think, 18 or 19 is a good spot for him, but he's a young guy, and they got a lot of young guys right now after this draft. So let's see how they develop.
Yeah, I ranked him 17th, so I was the highest of all of the contributors on Jack Murtagh, so 19 seems appropriate. But
What's your
as I
number one
covered,
factor for why you have him at that spot?
I like the upside, like his projectability is a criteria I look at, and you can just see a clear straight shot to a like driving, maybe not the smartest middle six player, but a straight line, straight speed, like shot guy. And I just see that happening. And because he's big and plays with such drive and energy, there's also a fourth line role for him too. He somehow has upside, but a decent floor too. And that's important to me. I think it's kind of a factor in a lot of these second round draft picks. Yes, they were all big, beefy boys, and we'll get into another one in a little bit, but they have a skill too. They have Carter Miko is uniquely large. Jack Murtagh is fast and can shoot. Shane Vansaghi, he is like one of the best checkers in the draft. They have these elite skills, these special skills, along with being big dudes.
Yeah, and that's important. And you mentioned there's another big beefy boy coming up, and it's our next one, Spencer Gill, who I just was talking about Amico being a big defensive role, and Spencer Gill's up there too, because they don't have a lot at defense as far as the prospects go. So a guy like Gill is really important.
Yeah, and he is a second round pick from 2024. A lot of people really liked that one after the Flyers had traded up to get Jack Berglund and groaned like, "Oh, the Flyers doing the Flyers thing." They picked Spencer Gill, and everybody's like, "Oh, that's a great second round pick." He was injured a little last season. He played for Rimouski for the last 3 years, which I believe is where what was the next Chris Pronger? What was his name again?
Oh,
Sam
Sam
Morin.
Morin. Yeah.
I think he was at Rimouski, but now he's playing for the Blainville Boisbriand for our French speakers.
Yeah, I'm not
out
pronouncing that. Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, I had him ranked 20th, and he came in at 18. So I think the consensus within Broad Street Hockey is like, interesting prospect. He's playing in the Q, which is kind of a poopy league. So we need to see either complete and total dominance in the Q or, playing against men in the next couple of years. And that's when I'll start to think like, oh, this guy could be something.
Well, because they're going to have some interesting situations with the defense in a couple of years if they can get Ristolainen out of the mix at last. And you've got a couple other positions. Nick Sealer's probably going to, phase out of the lineup in a couple of years. So you're going to have some open roles. And if you can have one of these big bodies that you've drafted recently fill that role, that's going to be huge, because the defense has a lot of skill, but they don't necessarily have big dominating presences. So they're really hoping that Gill can be one of those guys.
Absolutely. And so I had him at 20th. The highest rank was our producer, Kyle, who had him 13th.
Hey, this is Kyle, and I ranked Spencer Gill the highest at 13th. As for why, I watched a few of his games last season and liked what I saw from him. He's rangy, uses his size in a smart way, and he even has a little offense to his game. A 6'4" right-handed defenseman is going to get a lot of chances to prove himself, and Talkett already name-dropped him after a single development camp.
Man, all right, moving on to number 17 on our list, we've got Shane Vansaghi, who was another guy that I really liked going into the draft. The Flyers got him at 48th overall, and a lot of people had him going in the late first or even the early second. I think the Flyers might have gotten one of the steals here with Vansaghi. He is just a violent forward, just blows people up. But effectively, it's not like we saw Rasmus Ristolainen going for a hit, but then being out of the play, not winning the puck battle, and just generally, not being impactful.
Vansaghi, he's hard to play against. He's hard
to play against. Vansaghi actually is hard to play against because he gets the body positioning and can separate players from their puck. Like, he actually uses that violence to a positive result.
His history of violence has a purpose to it, is what you're telling me
Oh,
overall.
yeah.
Shane Vansaghi is a guy that I love everything I've heard about him. I've
Mhm.
heard Wayne Simmons like in there. And when I think of Wayne Simmons, I also think about another historic Flyer, a guy who was basically made to be a Flyer, and that's Rick Tocchet, who is the current head
Mhm.
coach of your Philadelphia Flyers. And Rick Tocchet knows about being a violent forward, a guy who fought, hit, and scored goals. So if you can have a player like that and you can have a guy like Tocchet leading him into this league, that is a marriage made in orange and black heaven right there. And I'm excited for this guy. I love all the comps I've heard. This just seems like a Flyers pick, but a modern Flyers pick, a guy
Yes.
with talent and skill who can play in the modern game, isn't just big for the sake of being big. He's just a kind of a total package. If he can work out, this is a boon for the Flyers.
Yeah, the biggest knock on him is his skating. Like, it's not fast and he's not that agile, but
Tale
that
as old
seems to
as
be a
time right there.
tale as old as time. But all of the other stuff, he could be Garnet Hathaway in the next 2 years. Like, that's probably his floor, is just the next Garnet Hathaway.
That's a good floor. That's a good floor because I like Garnet on the fourth line. I would prefer
Yes.
that he ends up more in the Simmons Stockett area. But I mean, Hathaway, you could do a lot worse. He's a great third line player, you know?
Yeah, and
Prime Hathaway is what I'm talking
Prime
about. Not
Hathaway.
current. Current is very clearly a fourth line player, but
Fourth
Hathaway
line
in his
guy.
prime was like a really nice third line player. So I would love if Vansaghi turns into that. But yeah, he's at Michigan State playing with our boy Porter Martone. So that's
Yeah.
really exciting.
You mentioned a match made in orange and black heaven, and that is one. I don't know if they'll be playing together too much, but Vansaghi was only on the third line for most of last year. He kind of was in a limited role, but a lot of the best players at Michigan State, Ike Howard, Carson Dorwart, in fact, they've all moved on. So he should see more ice time. I don't know
Yeah.
if that translates to a first line role, but he should see more ice time and maybe some more special teams time as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I see that
I ha-
Brad had him at 8th.
Brad had this to say about Vansaghi. I like that Vansaghi brings a bit of everything. It's easy to picture him being an all situations player, and he should be a really effective forechecker when he makes the league.
Meanwhile, I had him at 18th, so he came in at 17. Pretty much right in line with the consensus. Again, he didn't play enough last year for me to really bump him up the rankings.
Yeah.
But he is playing in the NCAA as a draft eligible, and that does count for something.
We're going to be watching a lot of Michigan State hockey this season.
Oh, hell yeah, we are. All right, moving on from him to number 16 on our list, we have Mr. Carson Bjarnason, who I know, Steve, you love to say his name in the style of the Swedish chef.
Oh.
Would you give us one right here?
Carson Bjarnason.
Carson Bjarnason. Yeah.
It's a fun name, and I am really hoping this guy hits. He's 20 years old, goaltending prospect, which is huge right now, considering how Kolosov flamed out last season. Fedotov is old and bad. So, and Sam Ersson seems to be pretty mid from what we've seen. We're really hoping, I know you're a big Sam Ersson fan. I know we're hoping that he can end up being a guy, but it really seems like they don't really have like the guy right now. And it comes down to Bjarnason or one of the guys who might come up later in the rankings. But let's just focus on Bjarnason right now, because he's got a big season ahead of him, because he's going to be in the AHL, and hopefully he's getting a lot of playing time with the Phantoms.
Well, we'll see what works out with Ivan Fedotov and Alexei Kolosov. But yeah, Carson Bjarnason is going to be an important member of this Phantoms team. I ranked him at 22 just because, again, hasn't played as a professional yet. He looks good in the WHL, but, you know, juniors, I just am like, I need to see more from him before I can start moving him up the rankings. He was drafted in the second round of 2023, and the Flyers traded up to get him. There was a run on goalies in the second round, and they were like, oh God, we got to get one guy. So they traded up, got Bjarnason, and then Yegor Zavragin was still there for them in the third round, and they're like, I guess we're taking 2 goalies this year. So that's I think that's always a little fun that they took 2 goalies in a single draft. Who does that, you know?
Goalies are wild because you really just have to get as many lotto balls as you can, because you never know who's going to work out with goaltenders. But you know, there's a lot of intangibles that you like here. This is going to be, I think we're going to review him next season and like really reassess, because I think this is his biggest season to show us what he's got. And I think the biggest thing for him is the fact that newest Flyer goaltender Dan Vladar is signed
Mhm.
for 2 years. And
Yep.
that gives Bjarnason a very clear timeline of when he can expect to really get a shot to break into that NHL lineup. So
Yeah.
I think this year he's probably going to be all Phantoms. Next season, I wouldn't be surprised if he does well this season, he might have an opportunity to jump up to the big club, and they'll just figure out a way to get rid of Harrison or Vladar or whoever they have to. But, Bjarnason has a lot to prove. Very exciting opportunity for this guy, and I'm excited to see what he's got.
I think one thing that Charlie O'Connor, friend of the show, he said that the feedback on Bjarnason is that he's coachable. Like,
like
he's
that.
he's a raw goalie prospect with a lot of tools, and there's a lot of work to get to NHL caliber goaltender, but he's coachable. He's open to it. He's I think it was last year's rookie camp or something. He came in, was not very good. They gave him some feedback, and then he started improving from there. Like, it sounds like he takes it to heart. And, that's an important thing for a prospect to recognize, that, hey, these coaches are here to help me, not criticize me.
Yeah, exactly. I love the coachability of it. So I see the highest rank on BSH was Jason McNeil, J-Mac over there.
And Jason, ranking him 10th, had this to say: after all the goalies the Flyers have drafted, they have to hit on one, and I think Bjarnason is the one. The fact that his save percentage has been .900 or better in the last 3 seasons in Brandon is an asset, and he's played 40-plus games in each season. He's also quite athletic, he has a good glove and a blocker, and should be able to do the job down the road.
And you had him at 22, so you're not quite a
Yes.
believer yet, but you could be swayed, I'm sure.
Oh, if he does really well in the AHL this season, he's moving up for sure. Again, it was just like, he's in the WHL. He was an older goaltender. I need to see more against like a better quality of competition. And just there's so much like inconsistency in him. Like last summer, he was not good, and then he was good, and then he was not. Like, I just need to see it put together at once,
Well, here's hoping. I hope he puts together a great season, because I really just want to see where he goes, and the Flyers need a goaltender. So let's go.
We need a goalie so bad. All right. I think that wraps up our review of the last 25 under 25. Just remember, we'll have another video coming out next week on players 15 to 11. And before you go, smash that subscribe button, give us a like, ring that notification bell. Steve, any closing thoughts before we get out of here?
No, I was just happy to jump on, talk about these kids, and I think the future is real bright. I mean, they came up 7th in Corey Pronman's pipeline rankings for The Athletic, and I think things are moving in the right direction for this franchise, so I'm really excited to see what these guys can do.
I'm right there with you. It is exciting. All right, everybody. I'm Joe DiMarini. This was Steve Jaco. Thank you, producer Kyle. Check out BroadStreetHockey.com for more Flyers stuff, and we'll see you next time.